Hello, my name is Anastasia, and this is a literature review on the Appalachian culture based on information mainly from the textbook titled Transcultural Healthcare, a Culturally Competent Approach by Larry Purnell. This will take a look into Purnell's 12 domains of culture. All photos in this video or PowerPoint have been selected via Google image search and are marked free for use or sharing. This video is based off a PowerPoint that was created by two other nursing students and myself. I have gotten permission from the two other students to use information from the original PowerPoint. A little about myself. I am 22 years old. I am a senior nursing student from Western North Carolina. I am part of the honors program at my school, which entails me creating an honors contract within my major, selecting a certain class, and doing extra assignments to earn a credit towards an honors minor. Some objectives that will be met in this PowerPoint include defining concepts of culture, service learning, citizenship, social justice, altruism, health promotion, culture sensitivity, and culture competence in nursing. We will also discuss Pinder's health promotion theory as it relates to culture, and we will compare and contrast health promotions in given cultures in their surrounding region. There are four distinctive people groups of the Appalachia. The first group are descendants of original pioneers. These people tend to own land. One can describe this group as self-reliant, independent, hard-working, stable, and having strong ties to family. The next group is hard-working coal miners, loggers, and factory workers. The average worker has little education, few skills, a large family, no wealth, and few choices in vocation. The next group includes professionals. These are individuals and their families who have moved to the Appalachia due to a profession, such as bankers, lawyers, teachers, ministers, etc., etc. Members of this group are usually not readily accepted by the Appalachians. The fourth group are returning Appalachians. This group consists of those who grew up in the mountains, moved away for employment, and now are returning to the Appalachia. Many of them find it difficult to readjust to their old lifestyle. Some history of the Appalachian culture. The Appalachia is a region where geographical boundaries exist because of shared history, culture, and the environment of mountain people. Before the Appalachia was created, it was home to the Cherokee. Many of the first settlers of the mountains were runaway slaves, indentured servants, as well as outcasts, artists, and adventurers, and it was inhabited by colonists and coal miners. Native people were killed by the millions and driven from their land by white settlers. The whites arrived and settled in the east of the Appalachia. Still today, the Appalachian Mountains are rich in resources and skills, but they are poor in health and money, and much of the culture was created because of the resources the mountains provided. Mountaintop removal is one of the many issues in the community, many others of which are inextricably connected to drug abuse, lack of access to health care, and lack of access to higher education. Domain 1. Overview and Heritage. The Appalachia consists of a large geographic expanse in the eastern U.S. that is associated to the mountain system. It extends from northern United States in the southern New York to northern Mississippi. It includes all of Virginia, Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Maryland, Mississippi, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee. Many people live in small settlements or in inaccessible hollows, which are also known as valleys. The location results in isolation from the mainstream of healthcare services, and it can also delay the response time of emergency response teams due to having to use secondary roads. Cultural heritage of the region is rich and reflected by distinctive music, art, and literature. Many generally identify themselves through family surname. Individuals are able to use their surname to trace, and it is common to find whole communities comprised of extended and related families. Education beyond high school is often viewed as not important. Some stereotypes of this culture is poor white trash, hillbillies, and rednecks, and even mountaineers. IQ scores of the Appalachian children are sometimes lower due to the outsiders of the culture having access to larger schools. The pictures of the following interviewees are not the actual interviewees. They are simply an example of an older man and a woman in her 40s to represent the original interviewees. The first one will be known as DM. He was born and raised in Lumberton, North Carolina. He was raised on the Appalachian Culture. He now resides in St. Augustine, Florida, as he is retired, and he grew up in a traditional Appalachian culture, however moved to Columbia, South Carolina after he finished the Army in his late 20s. He then worked in construction where he managed a company for 30 years, and there he did not attend any more school after high school. The next interviewer will be known as TS. She was born and raised in Asheville, North Carolina. She was raised strongly towards the Appalachian culture. She has been able to trace her heritage back to the Cherokee Indian. She was raised strongly on Appalachian values, grew up on a farm, and only has her high school diploma and a CNA 1 certificate. Domain 2 is communication. Many English words are derived from the 16th century Saxon and Gaelic. Variations in the pronunciation of words. English is the dominant language, and some examples of variations of words are, instead of saying dragged, somebody will say drug. Instead of saying heard, somebody will say heard. Many like to be called by their title, like Mr., Miss. Many people enjoy storytelling, value personal distance, call a person by his or her first name, are very private people, and consider staring a bad manner. Many will avoid aggression and assertiveness in communication. Many will not interfere with others' lives unless asked to do so, and many people avoid arguments and rather seek agreement through communicating. Interviewer DM. In contrast to Purnell's example of communication, DM communicates with proper English and avoids Appalachian slang. He does like when people address him as Sir or Mr. He is very friendly through communication and will go up and carry on a conversation with anyone, and he prefers to be greeted with a proper title and a strong handshake. Interviewer TS. TS uses Appalachian slang like y'all and ain't. TS is super friendly and is willing to talk to anyone. When greeting her, she usually wants to give a hug to someone, even if they are a stranger. Domain 3. Family roles and organization. Traditionally, men were supposed to do physical work and women took care of the house. Men were expected to do physical work, support the family financially, and provide transportation. Women took care of the household and assumed responsibility for child rearing. Women are generally the providers of emotional strength, with older women having a lot of clout in healthcare matters. Living right comes from being a good Christian person. An example would be having a good job regardless of what the work might be and being satisfied for having the job. More women are working outside of the home with better access to education. Large families are common regardless if the parents are married or not. Appalachian families take great pride in being independent and doing things for themselves. Respect can be earned by being a good person or living right. Interviewer DM. DM was married with one child and does not have a big family. His wife makes most of the decisions for the family. He follows the Appalachian values by taking great pride in independent living. He learned how to do a lot of things on his own, such as gardening and cooking. Interviewer TS. She has 6 kids and is not married. She is a single mom and supports her family, and she comes from a large family background. Domain 4 is workforce issues. Work generally becomes less of a priority when a family member is ill or other family obligations are pressing. Work fosters an environment of cooperation and agreement. Decision-making is valued and desired. A scribe status is more important than a chief status. People prefer to work at their own pace, devising their own work rules to get their job done. Working at an own pace highlights the importance of independence and creating individual strengths. Many value personal space in the workforce and use greater distance when communicating. Interviewer DM. He worked as a manager in construction until retirement and now volunteers as a campground host in Florida. He is not affected by working with people of different genders or people that are younger or older than him. He in turn managed all generations for 30-some odd years. Interviewer TS. She volunteers at a food bank. Tammy is familiar with working with a variety of people. She is not affected by working with people who differ than her. She fits into the Appalachian culture by displaying her will to want to help people. Tammy works on a regular basis as a CNA. She works in home health, in particular with a young man who has autism. Domain 5, Bioculture Ecology. The Appalachian region has a predominantly white population with little variation over time. Some individuals trace their heritage as a mixture of white and tribes in the regions. Some tribes include Cherokee, Appalachian, and Choctaw. Health conditions like anemia, otis media, cardiovascular diseases, female obesity, non-insulin dependent diabetes, and parasitic infections are higher than national norms. White Appalachian residents have a 20% greater chance of dying from heart disease between the ages of 35 and 64 than other white Americans. This may be due to limited access to healthy foods, lack of recreational facilities, and lack of medical care. By the age of 65, 40% of the retirees have none of their natural remaining teeth. Occupational hazards lead to respiratory diseases like black/brown lung, emphysema, tuberculosis. Respiratory diseases usually are caused by harmful byproducts of predominant occupations in the region that include farming, textile, manufacturing, mining, furniture making, and timbering. It is one of the areas of the U.S. that has the highest rate of disability. Tooth decay is prevalent in childhood and may lead to a lifetime of poor oral care. Interviewer DM. He has a family history of stroke and high blood pressure. He has false teeth. He is aware of his illnesses that run in the family, and because of this, he takes care of his body in both physical and nutritional ways. He has learned to cope with having false teeth over the years. However, he does complain of how aggravating they can become. Domain 6 is high-risk behaviors. Use of smokeless tobacco is the highest in the country, and deaths from tobacco is the highest in the nation. Many do not view disease as a problem until it begins to interfere with one's functioning. Diseases are often denied or ignored until it progresses to the point to decrease function in daily work or activities. Oxycontin, also known as hillbilly heroin, has become the drug of choice for narcotic abusers. Because of this, many physicians have become increasingly unwilling to provide narcotics even to cancer patients that suffer chronic pain. Medicaid in 9 states has limited access to Oxycontin because of the rise of narcotic abusers. Rise of meth labs. This is due to seclusion of the mountain hollows and availability of remote barns and sheds. Also, ingredients are easy to obtain. These include things like over-the-counter cough medications, acetone, rock salt, paint primer, camping fuel, and coffee filters. Marijuana abuse and trafficking are a serious problem. Tennessee, West Virginia, and Kentucky produces a majority supply of domestic marijuana. Interviewer DM. He does not smoke or drink any type of alcohol. He participates in vigorous exercise. And as a campground host, he cleans campsites, which allows him to walk and stay physically fit by doing manual labor. For his age of 70, he is fit and active. Interviewer TS. She does smoke on a regular basis. On average, she smokes about half a pack a day. Tammy is not a heavy drinker by any means. Does not drink on a daily basis, but will have a glass of wine occasionally with her dinner. And she does not use any recreational drugs. Domain 7 is nutrition. Food has a meaning beyond providing nutritional sustenance. It is a way to bring family together and share with each other. Many individuals who live in remote areas will hunt for their food. Different game include deer, muskrat, groundhog, rabbit, squirrel, duck, and turkey. The bone marrow is used to make sauces. Stomach, intestines, pig's feet, tails, and ribs are commonly eaten. Most diets include sweet prepackaged Kool-Aid with added sugar, very sweet iced tea, and soda. Very common food includes sweet potato pie, molasses candy, apple beer, pumpkin cake, and pickled beans, fruit, corn, beets, and cabbage. All of these are high in sodium and sugar. Frying foods and baking grease is common, or preparing it fried, breaded, and with animal fat. Canning food is a huge aspect in self-reliance and becomes a social/family occasion. Interviewer DM. He eats an abundant amount of fruits and vegetables. He likes to add butter and salt to everything. He eats a high portion of fried food. Because of his eating habits, he is at high risk for high cholesterol and diabetes, which is common in the Appalachian culture because of the increased amount of butter and fried foods they intake and the sugar intake. Domain 8. Pregnancy and childbearing practices. Rural women had the worst birth outcomes compared to rural adjacent women. Methods of birth control include birth control pills, condoms, tubal ligation, and abortion. Tubal ligation is having your tubes tied. Abortion is viewed as an individual choice, and a popular belief is that if you take laxatives, it will facilitate an abortion. There is a disproportionate number of teenage pregnancies occurring at a younger age compared to non-Appalachians. Current pregnancy myth beliefs. Boys are carried higher in the mother's belly and girls are carried lower. Wearing an opal ring during pregnancy can cause harm to the baby, and certain foods that the mother craves and eats will appear as a birthmark resembling the food. For example, if a mother is craving strawberries throughout her pregnancy and eats those strawberries, there's a belief that that baby will be born with a birthmark that looks like a strawberry. Interviewer TS. She has 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. Pregnancy is a big deal throughout her family. She only had her partner present during birth. Tammy went into detail about her children and explained that she had all 6 in a relative short period of time. A9. Death rituals. When death is expected, family members may stay through the night, prepare food for the event, and provide comfort to the dying family member or to each other. Many employers give workers up to 3 days for funeral leave. Funerals can last 3 hours or longer. The body is generally displayed, and at the end of the service, the closest relatives see the body last. After the funeral, an elaborate meal is served at the home or church and is known as the wake. Funerals serve as an important social function. If the body is exhumed or reburied, it is believed that the person might not go to heaven. Individuals are typically buried with their best clothes and personal possessions. Deaths are frequently published in a newspaper, or even notices are published of an individual being returned to their mountain home for burial. Cremation is acceptable practice, and the disposition of ashes is a personal decision. Interviewer DM. DM personally wants to be cremated. He believes in an afterlife like many Appalachian people. He says this will allow him to continue to look over his loved ones and be a guardian angel. Just as in the Appalachian culture belief, he also believes there is both a heaven and hell. Domain 10 is spirituality. Original inhabitants of the Appalachian were mostly predominantly Protestants and Episcopalians. Today, religions are Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Holiness Pentecostal, and Episcopalian. Prayer for many is a common source for strength, and it is common to attend 2 or more weekly church services. Many churches believe a preacher has a divine calling, so they may not be ordained. Some denominations believe in divine healing, and this is one reason many do not seek medical care until the disease is well advanced. Many believe water baptism must be done in a river, pond, or lake so the body can be submerged in water. Some practice feet washing, which demonstrates humility, and many churches may segregate people in groups such as men, women, old, and young. Meaning of life comes from living right with God and in the beliefs of a chosen church. There is also belief that rewards come in another life, in which God repays one for deeds done on earth. Interviewer DM does not consider himself deeply religious. He does not go to church weekly like many Appalachians do. Instead, he prays on a regular basis and considers himself a Methodist. Domain 11 is healthcare practices. Many believe that their health is in God's will. Many do not seek formal medical health providers until self-medicating and bulk medicine have been exhausted. This denotes a very self-reliant and a self-care approach of practicing health. There is a strong belief in folk medicine, such as using herbal medication, poultices, and teas. Care is focused within the family. Good health is feeling well and being able to meet one's obligations and work. Many cannot afford basic health care, so postponing to see a healthcare provider is a last mean. Domain 12 is healthcare providers. Lay and trained nurses have provided significant healthcare services, including obstetrics. Practitioners and herbalists are generally older women, but men may also become healers. Grannies and herb doctors are trusted and known to the individual in the community for giving more personalized care. Frontier Nursing Service, that was started by Mary Beckenridge, is one of the oldest and most well-known nurse-run clinics in the U.S. Frontier Nursing Service is a notable example of nurses, midwives, and nurse practitioners taking the initiative to provide health care in the Appalachian and rural areas. This section is on the service learning experience our group selected. Our group volunteered at a food bank in North Carolina since it is considered an Appalachian state. We volunteered at a food bank known as Manna Food Bank. Some information about Manna Food Bank. It is a private, non-for-profit service organization with over 200 partner agencies in 16 counties of western North Carolina. MANNA is an acronym and stands for Mountain Area Nutritional Needs Alliance. Some statistics about MANNA Food Bank. First of all, western North Carolina food insecurity rate is 15.3%. North Carolina ranks 11th in the nation for childhood food insecurity. MANNA was able to provide 13.6 million meals across western North Carolina in 2016. A record of 16.4 million pounds of food in 2016 was donated. 64% of clients chose between paying for food or paying for medicine/medical care. So this helped out clients have food available so they could pay for other expenses such as medical care. 31% of households that were donated food had diabetes. Over half of clientele households have a member with high blood pressure. Through gathering facts from our service learning experience, textbook materials, and interviews, our group decided to focus on nutrition as health promotion in the Appalachian culture. Common foods of the Appalachian culture include fried foods, which are usually fried in animal lard or bacon grease, drinking an abundant amount of sweet drinks, which includes sweet tea, Kool-Aid, soda, which causes an increased intake of sugar, and eating a lot of molasses, sweet pies, cakes, which increases sugar intake as well, and eating a lot of canned foods, which increases salt intake. So ways to promote health through nutrition in the Appalachian culture. Our first one was to teach people about trying to cook meat and vegetables in other ways besides frying. For example, people can bake, grill, steam, or broil meat. They can steam vegetables. They could also use salt-free seasonings like Mrs. Dash. Instead of drinking sweet drinks, they should increase their water intake. This may be very hard to cut drinks out completely, so educating about using less sugar to sweeten drinks or using a sugar substitute like Splenda. Also buying drinks that are sugar-free or mixing drinks with water to make them half and half. To decrease salt intake, it would be important to find a good salt substitute for canning foods. So a common substitute for salt in canning foods is using vinegar. This substitute is beneficial because it still maintains the cultural tradition of canning food and self-reliance. Another way to promote nutrition in the Appalachian culture is having individuals join in on free healthy cooking classes at a local food bank. These cooking sessions can teach individuals how to prepare food in more healthy manners and teach individuals about portion control. Many food banks also will give boxes out after the cooking session. These boxes will typically include ingredients that were used in the teaching demonstration and a variety of other items. Through these 4 ways, we believe that nutrition could be promoted in the Appalachian culture while maintaining their traditions. This is the first list of references, and this is the second list of references. Thank you for listening to this PowerPoint lesson.